Thank you for joining us. I'm David Hertel in for Elias. Well, the big news of the day. Bank of Canada, for the first time in 4 years, we haven't seen this in 4 years, has cut the interest rate from 5 to 4.75%. A lot of reactions, a lot of impacts on our day-to-day lives for sure. To give us some insights, especially on the housing, real estate market, which will be directly impacted by this decision, I'm joined by Luciano D'Iorio, certified residential and commercial real estate broker. Luciano, thank you for jumping on as always.
Do you see me smiling? I wish you could see me smiling, David. But there's a big conference that's happening tomorrow in Montreal. It's the Real Estate Forum, and it's people from all over Canada that'll be in Montreal. Not for the Grand Prix, maybe for the Grand Prix, but certainly to hear about what's going on in the Quebec and Montreal market when it comes to real estate. Mostly commercial and corporate real estate brokers and developers, but also development companies that are involved in housing. And I'm curious, and I'm sure that there's going to be some smiles on people's faces at tomorrow's conference at the Palais de Congrès. So I think good news all around. I think it sends a good signal. Like you said, in the last 4 years, we haven't seen it come down. So are we going to see more drops in the interest rate going forward? Who knows? I know that when the interest rates started going up, David, our phones stopped ringing because the cost of money was just didn't make any more sense to develop, and it didn't make any more sense to build and to take on that risk. And so now, with risk being decreased, time will tell. But I'm certainly curious about how my colleagues and confrères are going to be reacting to the news at tomorrow's conference.
So just before you came on, I got a text on our text line 514-800. Hi, David. My husband is an architect. We welcome the reduced Bank of Canada rate, as many of his projects that have been on hold are now likely to move forward. That's from Barbara in Beaconsfield. Thank you, Barbara. Luciano, take me through, what goes on in these decision-making rooms in the real estate universe. I mean, a decision like that, a quarter point, may not seem like a lot, but we're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that could really make the difference to making a decision. So walk me through this. Do you think this will actually have a direct impact on real estate, housing, commercial real estate decisions that have been on hold for so long?
Well, it may, because it may help. It may help make the difference, because if you're really tight on a project and money is tight, and you can only charge so much, right? The market is willing to bear a certain price, and all of a sudden it's 0.25 less. Yes, it can make a difference. Can we see? Time will tell, really. Unfortunately, it'll take some time to trickle down. But like I said, I think it's just the positive news that people will be like, okay, maybe it'll go down a little more. And so it starts the discussions. And so Barbara's husband's going to be happy because he'll have some projects starting to come, or at least, kind of looking at it or giving it a second look.
And I guess also other developers are going to say, okay, but I'll wait maybe for other rate cuts before I actually move ahead.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
That's going to be a factor as well. Also, I wanted your reaction. This is huge news for the East End of Montreal. One of the most iconic old shopping centers in the eastern part of Montreal is Place Versailles. It's Radisson metro station. It's near the 25, near the Hippolyte Lafontaine tunnel. It's been there, since the 60s, and big announcement, and the city of Montreal has approved it. We're going to tear this down for the building of 5,000 housing units. This is a $2.2 billion project. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think, was it Mark Twain that said that the reports of my death are highly exaggerated or something like that, something to that effect.
Yeah.
So I think there's certainly news coming out of the East End in the last little while, actually, because of transportation and because of the Blue Line arriving at the Galerie d'Anjou. it's really changing kind of how we're looking at that neighborhood. And one of the groups, of course, looking at what to do is the owners of Place Versailles. And Place Versailles, for your listeners, is, like you said, at Sherbrooke Street East and the 25, so well located on the Green Line Metro line. So it's basically a 20-minute ride into the city from Radisson Metro. And it's got a big parking lots that were built for the 1960s. Place Versailles in 1963 was the first covered shopping center in Montreal.
Wow.
So these big parking lots that were built back in the day for another time. And I think that if we see the project is an exciting project, but it's going to take a few years before things happen. Of course, I think what gets overlooked in these news stories is there are leases in place. There are tenants in place that have, long-term commitments with the landlord and vice versa. So I think it's going to take some time. But if we look at just the parking lots that they have there, and I was thinking about this, before when Place Versailles opened, there was no Sunday shopping. There was no there was no evening shopping. So people shop at different times.
There was no Amazon, Luciano.
There was no Amazon, but I tell you this, David, because I'm very familiar with that center because it is in my part of town.
Sure.
And there are lineups. There are lineups at the caches at the big retailers, and not because they don't have staff to staff their caches, but there are lineups. So there are people there. It's just people are shopping over a longer period of time. So the need for the parking lots is not the same. And can we go get densification for housing in an area where you're basically going to be steps away from the Green Line, steps away from, less than 2 kilometers from the Blue Line that's going to, eventually show up at Galerie d'Anjou. So all of that area, Les Halles d'Anjou is also looking at densification. Galerie d'Anjou, there's rumors there about having densification. There's a car dealership along the 25 that's reported to have been sold and looking at redevelopment there, all in the residential housing kind of units to be put up.
We could go down the list. I mean, on the West Island, Fairview is going to have some housing there. There are projects there. I've heard talk about the Rockland Center in TMR maybe going down that road as well. So I'm just wondering, Luciano, is it just a function of it's worthwhile to go towards housing, economically speaking, or are there other factors at play?
I think it's worthwhile. I think there's a need for housing, and especially especially in this current crisis. But we've seen over the years, and not only in Montreal, but really throughout North America, this mixed-use development that's been happening. So a mix of retail, a mix of office, a mix of housing. And I think you're going to see that more and more, especially in areas where there's transportation. These transit-oriented developments that we saw on the South Shore, and that we're going to start seeing now on the island as things are changing. But the cities obviously need to catch up and need to look at zoning and allow for developers to develop nice projects and projects that people want.
So, net, this is a positive from your perspective.
Yes.
All right. Some good news. Keep smiling, Luciano.
Thanks.
Always appreciate your insights. Thanks so much for joining us.
Have a great day.
You too. Care. Luciano D'Iorio, certified residential and commercial real estate broker.